தமிழ்நாட்டில் அங்கவங்கள படின்றோம். இதை வடநாட்டில் என்ன சொல்றாங்க, பெண்களா நீ வேலைக்கு போகாத, நீ வீட்டிலே இரு, நீ அடிப்படையில் இரு, ஒன்று யோகத்துக்கோ, அதான் வேலைங்கிறாங்க. இல்லை.
Mr. Maran, a DMK MP, made a comment where he said that while women in the north bear children, our women in the south, particularly in Tamil Nadu, are sent to schools.
This comparison is actually pretty coarse, I would say. I mean, for a former minister who's been in Delhi for a long time, Maran, and to say such a thing is very divisive. Obviously, it's aimed at polarizing.
We may be punished for achieving the goals of attaining population control. Hello and welcome to the Federal. You're watching AI with Sanket. No, this is not the AI that you know. This is the AI of news, because news today does not need artificial but analytical intelligence. Today's focus is going to be on Tamil Nadu. Certain comments have been made. These comments are all too common, and they become even more common once there is an election round the corner, which there is in this year in Tamil Nadu. Mr. Maran, a DMK MP, made a comment where he said that while women in the north bear children, our women in the south, particularly in Tamil Nadu, are sent to schools. This comment has come under sharp criticism also. Of course, a lot of context is being drawn to look at the wider picture, the point that is being made. I guess to understand why a comment like this is being made, does it even have traction on the ground ahead of an election year in Tamil Nadu? I have with me the Editor-in-Chief of the Federal, Mr. S. Srinivasan. Thank you very much, Srini sir, for joining us. What do you make of this comment? Do you think that this was a flimsy comment aimed to perhaps attract some attention, though going horribly wrong, or does it actually work on the ground?
Well, Sanket, as far as 2026 elections are concerned, they are around the corner. But whether this will have any impact by comparing with the North, I don't think so, because there is a migrant population which is here, coming here. Whether it is targeted towards that, that's not going to really help, because their core vote bank is Tamil Nadu. And if they are addressing this audience, all they are trying to say is that, look, we are doing a great job, as a Dravidian party. So they just want to show that, their record has been very nice. They have been actually doing very good job here as compared to North. This comparison is actually pretty coarse, I would say. I mean, for a former minister who's been in Delhi for a long time, Maran, and to say such a thing is very divisive. Obviously, it's aimed at polarizing. Why are they trying to polarize? Because, as I told you earlier, it's not as if by polarizing they're going to get more votes. Probably they want to say that we have a great track record in on social sector, especially controlling population, or controlling or having better educated workforce, better educated women. Also, to several other areas. It's not just restricted to that; it's also a bit of a federal issue. This also translates to three more issues. I'm sure you will discuss in detail. One leads to delimitation, as I said. The other is the question of devaluation of funds among the states. Because the 16th Finance Commission recommendation has been submitted to the President. We are still waiting its outcome. These are all interrelated issues. In a way, by targeting people in the North and trying to polarize, I think as elections are coming around, it's hardly 60 days left now. These kind of statements are coming from a minister.
Srini sir, you seem to say that this is divisive. And you say that you don't know whether this is actually going to reap some political dividends for the DMK. And we see comments like this repeated often. Sometimes it is other ministers in the government, the whole issue of uh, the population near Coimbatore. You remember a minister who seemed to suggest that these people only eat pani puris. That was a reference for North Indians. Do you, and as someone who has had this advantage of, and I speak of you personally, as having worked in North India, being a South Indian, traveled all over the country, having understood and seen the cultural differences, do you feel that this is an issue which is basically a dead issue, which is brought up by some politicians and maybe some elite section of the Tamil society who, for lack of a better word, suffer from a God complex, that we are above, we are evolutionary a step ahead of the North?
Yeah, yes, you're right. I don't think there is a God complex among the educated elite.
Yeah.
This issue has no traction. Basically, more educated people here, they all understand that this is not the way things should be discussed in politics, and this is not the way. This is more aimed at party cadres. It's not elite. It's more about the basic cadres. Probably they're trying to send. And by the way, if the claim is that we have a huge literacy rate, even those guys understand what it is. You see, the actually they're damaging their alliance partner more than getting any advantage. If you remember last time when the Deputy Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Udayanidhi Star, made a statement about how Sanatana Dharma, it actually is like equivalent to a mosquito displaced. What kind of impact it had on Madhya Pradesh? The Congress had a difficult time then explaining constantly, saying that, look, we disassociate, we are not there. So oftentimes, actually, it results a negative campaign for their own alliance partner. But as far as, Tamil Nadu as a state is concerned, people love their language coming here, but doesn't mean that they hate Hindi or they would hate any other language or they would hate any other person coming from the north. They understand very well that, there is a demographic shift happening, that they need people who like to work with them, and they are embracing them. If you go around Chennai, visit any hotel, you find a lot of people from the north. It could be from, as far as Bihar, UP, Uttarakhand, Nepal, and West Bengal. People working here in hotels, in service sector, construction, and a whole lot of other areas. You will find them all working there, and there is no problem. Tirupur, like you mentioned, or Coimbatore area, with a lot of industries, you will find a lot of people. And the industrialists here actually look forward to have such a workforce. You know why? Because this workforce, they think they can manage them better. Once a person comes from migrates from outside, he stays in a place given to him, he works long hours, and he only takes periodic offs to go back to his hometown. And the wages can be negotiated with him. In fact, if you were to compare the wages with the local person, he is willing to accept low wages. So I think industries understand it. The educated elite also understand. I think the politicians basically try to use this language. This is almost equal to what you would find, like Sakshi Maran saying in the north, or you have another leader there, basically saying that there should be more women should get more children. So so it's the same. But I'm very sure that it's not the issue which will have impact on the elections, or they are going to get any doubt.
It's interesting that you mention the point of bearing more children, which is a point which was made by Chandrababu Naidu, because he seemed to talk about a demographic shift, and that whenever there is a delimitation, more, greater fertility rate, versus delimitation and the disadvantage for the South. I feel that this is what it all boils down to. We have seen Chandrababu Naidu raise this point, and we have seen Mr. Stalin also raise this point. Because if you look at the context in which Mr. Maran said what he did, North Indian women bear child, whereas our women go to work. I recall Mr. Stalin himself on the 21st of October 2024 saying, why shouldn't we aim for 16 children? Now, this flies in the face of the argument that his own MP is making. If you send women to school, first of all, who are you to send women? This whole concept of owning women, as if you own a woman, that woman must bear child. Our women do this. Where is all this coming from? And isn't this embarrassing?
Yeah. Before I go to Chandrababu Naidu, let me just quickly, try to answer your previous question in some more detail. I think why they dragging the North Indian example, because BJP is trying to make inroads. And it is in a way seen as the North Indian party. The same situation Congress had earlier. But they want to very strongly emphasize that this is basically a North Indian party, which is trying to make inroads into Tamil Nadu. And, they need to resist. So, since if you have seen, if Yogi Adityanath once went to Kerala and said, look, what is Kerala model of development? Look at UP. You see, so these kind of comparisons politicians do make to say that, we have done a great job. So I think that's why they bring, Dayanidhi Maran has said this just to, bring in the fact that, BJP is trying to create a North Indian party. They don't have a great track record, whether in employment or in other social sectors. Their track record is pretty bad. And as a Dravidian, we have done something great. That's what they're trying to say. This divisive politics like yesterday, today it's Pongal in Tamil Nadu. It's the biggest festival. It's the number one festival. And, if you try to really understand what Pongal is, it's basically celebration of harvest. It's thanksgiving to, by the farmers to sun god, saying that thank Lord, he gave such bountiful of the sun that we could actually have a very nice crop. So, the first crop, if they cut, they go and make it as an offering. A pot is kept outside where jaggery, cereals and other things are boiled and made it. So it's offered to everybody. It's a community feast. Everyone is invited in a village. Everybody goes. You would see Chennai completely emptied out. All people have gone to their hometown, their villages to celebrate. There is this whole thing to say it's a Dravidian Pongal, as opposed to BJP immediately reacted saying, oh, we should do Sanatan Pongal. There is nothing called Dravidian Pongal or Sanatan. By saying Dravidian, they also want to say that, look, we are the one who probably have a Dravidian stock, which is very different from probably the North Aryans. So these kind of things, people take it with a chuckle, they will just say, okay, or with a pinch of salt. I really don't think it is going to make any electoral thing. But yeah, they are trying to play with the minds of, they are trying to sow this divisive thought. And see, you are seeing a polarizing politics all India now. That's a standard playbook, not just here in, you have seen plenty of that in the North. Similarly, it is being used here. That's what it is. Now, coming to about, Chandrababu Naidu, it's not first time. He's been making several such statements. In 2015, he said, speaking place, he said, youngsters not marrying early. So, the problem is, therefore, they're not having,
children.
They're not having children because they're not marrying early. Then in 2016, he said, why rich people are content with just one or two children? Why can't they get more? Then, then later he also said, no, let's have at least every child, I'm removing the population control. Actually, about 13 states have removed all that. No population control exists in India. And he said we should incentivize. Now, in the same context, this comment of Chandrababu was, it in a different context. Our, the chief minister here goes to a wedding, attends wedding, bless the couple, and then he says, he blesses them saying, "Padinarum Petru Peruvalu Valga," which in roughly translated would means people should have 16 different types of wealth. But it also, in a way, connotes that, okay, have 16 children. So the real meaning is not that. You should have several types of wealth. But he said it in that context because it was a marriage and it was immediately everybody talked about it. See, this is not a solution to deal with the demographic, challenge you're facing. Now, we faced earlier, if you remember, 3 decades ago, when I was a student, and 3-4 decades ago, when we were in the early stages of our career, we saw a lot of this family planning advertisement everywhere. Saying that let's restrict the family size to two children. That was the thing everywhere, and there were several such slogans, advising family planning. But that is a time when there was a fear. There is a fear. The population to such an extent, kind of a fear. There was a Malthusian, fear that overpopulation could lead to war, famine, lack of resources, and maybe future society won't be able to feed population. It's a kind of fear expressed. So if you had been to a middle class drawing room, the general conversation would be, God, this country can't go anywhere, too much population. And then we could now see a situation where we are saying, oh, we have a demographic dividend. Shouldn't we take advantage of that? The thing here is, it is true that the population is on a decline. Overall, India's fertility rate, it's below, it's actually
Yeah.
it's 2.1 for replacement, what they call a replacement rate, which means a couple should have at least 2 or more. To 2.1 should be the average, so that it's a sustained family. In India's case, mostly out of 36 states, 31 states are below 2. Most of them are hovering 1.6, 1.8. Would you believe this? Kashmir.
Correct.
And so it's not as if only southern India, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, they have done well. Even in the north, several states have done well. So it's not as if all the states in the peripheries of India, they all have done well. So population is really going down. But there are a couple of states in the central belt, it's called Hindi belt.
Yeah, UP, Bihar, Jharkhand.
Even Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan have reached 2.0. They are at that level. But yeah, Bihar is 3. Jharkhand is more. You have UP. Well, that could also be an advantage because India also needs a working population. So, what is the concept behind this demographic dividend? That you need to have a working population between the age of above 15 and below 50. That is what is considered a great working population, so that they can look after the population below 15 and above 50. Because, but what is happening is in the southern states, the population is stabilized below fertility rate for a pretty long time now. So it is aging fast, paying fast. So you could see that effect in Tamil Nadu, you could see that effect in Kerala. So the average population of the country has come down, but it has come down much earlier. So there is a bigger impact in the southern states of that. The northern states, they're not just getting to understand what it is. So that's why you see a lot of migrant population coming from the north and trying to find employment in the south. That's why it is happening. So for a large country, a size of a continent size nation, it is actually pretty good that there is uneven, demography. So if some parts have achieved early demographic balance, or actually it has come down in the balance, the others are still at a growing stage. actually you can take advantage of that.
But Mr. Srinivasan, I think the problem over here is that instead of looking, perhaps these politicians and even the states, the economy of the state understands how to take advantage of getting these migrant laborers at an affordable rate, making them work, making your wheels of economy churn and move. The bigger political question here, or the political point here, has become of race. You see, Chandrababu Naidu and Mr. Stalin's comments, they kind of take an argument forward that your population has gone down, people from outside or from states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar are still growing at a faster rate. So it is our race which is going down. We as Tamilians are going down. We as people from Andhra Pradesh are depleting in number. So that is why I have more children. Do you feel that linking less population with the loss of race or the declining in the population of a certain native is the real divisive issue?
Yeah, you have a very interesting question. When they say Dravidian stock, it doesn't restrict to Tamil Nadu. Dravidian stock is actually whole of South, which actually includes Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana, and everything. But the thing is, it's not uniform. Like, it's a very curious thing about India that nothing is uniform. Even the caste is not uniform. It is spread out. So it's not as if entire South is one chunk of a Dravidian, stock. It's not like that. And the people also don't look at like that. Yes, they have these identities and they try to play this identity politics. And Dravidian politics is what they have been trying for a long time. And Tamil Nadu plays this, that's been their playbook for a very long time. And within the Dravidian stock, when they bring Tamil as another identity, it's multi-layered. When yesterday, when I was referring to Pongal, that is a Tamil identity layer. Okay. So it's actually, when they see a certain pressure coming from a religious identity, then in the north you have seen the caste identity coming up as a counter. Here, the language on identity, and what you see, these kind of issues coming up to, also prepare this Dravidian stock as another idea. But again, as I am saying, that, individual states have a different outlook towards that. It is not as if whatever Chandrababu Naidu has said will have an immediate impact. Politicians pick up these ideas and they try to express it here. But like I said, the attempt here to use this is largely to show that BJP is actually alien, that it is a party which is coming from outside. I think that is what that is. And by extension, because it's an alliance which will go into a fight, the partners, AIDMK and others, also could, colored in the same brush, the same paint. Maybe that's an attempt.
Interesting. Now, whether that will work or not, we don't know. But my final question, Mr. Srinivasan, is on delimitation. You see, one fear, and I want to know whether this has traction on the ground or not. The one fear which has repeatedly been raised is this. UP Bihar, more population, greater fertility and replacement rate. The South, lesser fertility rate, lesser replacement rate. What is the factor on the basis of which delimitation is done? What is delimitation? When the Lok Sabha boundaries will be redrawn, they will be done on the basis of population. Obviously, the states that will have greater population will get more Lok Sabha seats. And states that have lesser population will have the same number of seats, or perhaps in a delimitation exercise, the seats may reduce as well. Now, is this a genuine fear on the ground that we may be punished for achieving the goals of attaining population control? Is that a genuine fear which works or clicks on the ground?
Yeah. So, Sanket, it's certainly a federal issue. This again combined with a lot more issues. It's certainly an issue which resonates because it's also linked to the financial allocation. Because if you see the Finance Commission, as I was referring to earlier, the 16th Finance Commission has given its report. Uh, the allocation of funds to states, both vertical and horizontal allocation, happens on the basis of a certain weightage. The biggest weightage, about 50%, is, I think, given to distance from the most progress state. And the other criteria, which is pretty big, is 15% is given to population. And that's been a bone of contention for the southern states. They seem to think that, look, we contribute more to the GDP because 33% of GDP comes from southern states as a total. You have to look at India's. So their feeling is that, look, we contribute so much, but then what we get in return is much less. Now, funnily, this time, though the 16th Finance Commission report has been submitted to the president, we haven't yet heard by Arvind Panagriya. We haven't heard yet anything because we'll only know the recommendation once it is submitted to the parliament, and then it is made public. So we really don't know what the outcomes are. But that's
Sir, but my submission, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you short here. My submission is that if the argument is being made about the South contributing so much to India's GDP, but its political representation may go down. Here is the point. You only at the very beginning of this broadcast said that most of the laborers, or the job which is very, very significant for this wheels of the economy to churn, are migrants. They're coming from the north. So this othering makes no sense, no? Your business and your contribution to the GDP is also dependent on this migrant population which is coming from the north.
No, that is true. That the industry, it's one of the most industrialized states, Tamil Nadu, and it requires a lot of manpower, and it's also automating. But like other economies, large chunk of that comes from service sector. So there are advantages which southern states have because they are far better placed because of higher level of education for a very long time in the services sector. But coming to your question about delimitation, like you explained, the delimitation is basically what? It's fixing the number of seats and boundaries, or drawing territorial boundaries of parliamentary and assembly constituencies. That's the basic job. Now, what has happened is that in 1971, it was, this is purely based on population. Each state gets a certain amount of member of parliament based on the population of the state. Lok Sabha seats were fixed at 543 when the population of India was 44.8 crores. Today, the population is more than 1.4 billion. We have more than doubled. And what happened was in the year 1971, when the census came, they said, look, there's too much of difference among the states, so let's postpone for 25 years. And after 25 years, when Vajpayee came, again, he postponed for another 25 years. So in 2021, should have had a proper census. It didn't happen because of COVID. Now we're going to have in 2026, the government has announced. Now this census is going to happen after 55 years. So I'm sure the ground has really changed a lot. So when this is done, so the question is, should the number of members in the parliament should only be 543? There is no estimate that, look, it should go up to 840. Now, how is this done? So the worry of southern states is, look, our population is going down. Because like I said, that the the population stabilized much early here. And the dwindling population has been here for quite some time now, as compared to the northern states. So so there is an actual decline in the population. So they are worrying that our number of representatives to parliament could reduce. So this is basically a power equation. That is why you see a bad idea coming from politicians. Let's produce more children so that you give us more votes. I think that's really a bad idea. But, that's what they're trying to say. Suggest that, okay, let's increase the
I'll tell you, Srini sir, my experience here in Delhi of how migration actually changes the way politics happens. First, there is this argument of othering, that look, these guys will come, look, our race, our people will go down. That's happening globally. It's happening in the US as well. And then we have seen in Delhi how politics has changed. From a Delhi 2 decades ago that never knew the idea of celebrating Chhath. Suddenly in the national capital, which was known as a Punjabi first sort of identity, has a very, very strong cultural and political identity of people from UP and Bihar. Chhat is a huge political issue. It is a huge vote bank issue. The Purabiyas are a huge vote bank in Delhi. You can't ignore them. So these migrants will also become your voters. That is the experience one has had in other places where migration has happened.
You see, what has happened is in Tamil Nadu, it hasn't reached that stage. And actually, the point here is there have been, one or two very minor instances. Largely here, people are far more, accommodative. There is no such issue here at all. Probably because of the culture here, everyone who comes is received with open arms. It's not as if there is a hyper nationalist party here also. It's been around for quite some time. It only talks about Tamil identity, but it has not made big, progress. It's got 4 to 5% vote share, 3 to 4% at the most, but not been able to make a major impact. So it still remains as a thought. And the one thing here is throughout the record of Tamil Nadu, if you see, there has been a major, ground level changes which have happened because of the Dravidian movement. None of that was actually violent. I mean, it didn't go to extreme violence or anything. There have been some skirmishes here and there, been some, sections which were hurt, but it's never like that. So this comparison with Delhi and the kind of change I don't expect here. But the concerns are true. The concern is that, look, they have this feeling it is state versus center. Is center being, kind of unkind to us? Because it's not just about the sharing of funds. Whenever the flood happens, whenever, there is a calamity, cyclone or something, the central assistance or the grant which comes from the sector, they seem to constantly think that, look, we contribute so much, but when we need help, timely help, we don't get. The other issue that constantly irritate them is trying to interfere with subjects which are basically state education, health. So they have these irritations, and the way you have the governor behaving sometime here, so these are largely federal issues. So this really irritates them. And when all these things combine and you have something called delimitation, which is actually more a factual one, because the number of members of parliament, the worry, will it really go down? Because they're working on various formulas. One formula could be that, look, let the numbers be as it is, allow increased number to people, states with larger population. That's another formula. But this worry is real. Whenever the delimitation happens, I think it has to be done very carefully, because it will cause a certain unrest here. I mean, people would be really upset that, okay, so that's the issue here. So I don't think immediately there are any electoral this thing out of this, but in the long run, this will be a matter of.
Mr. Srinivasan, thank you so much for your time and putting this in perspective. I guess these stray comments, more is made out of them than what exists on the ground. I mean, this is the deduction from this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us on air.
Thank you.